everyone, and thanks for tuning in to blockchaingamer.biz's weekly news roundup. Check out our website, blockchaingamer.biz, and follow us on our social channels, BCGBiz, and on LinkedIn. So today is Friday, the 23rd of February. I'm your host, as always, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hi, John. How's it going?
Yeah, a bit of the snuffle, so I might have to mute myself as I cough. But other than that, yeah, coming out of it now at least. So.
Yeah, that's good. Right, so last week we basically headlined the entire episode with tokens going up, and this week has been no different, really. The sort of big news this week is that Pixel token went live to a 500 million market cap. We've had many of the new tokens launched in 2023 hitting all-time highs, and sort of in contrast to that, though, a few of the supposedly old tokens from before 2023 are kind of showing lows. So that's interesting. But
just to jump in there, not lows necessarily, but certainly some of them have gone down this year, where other things have gone up a lot. So I guess it's an interesting. It's not like all the gaming tokens are going up. I mean, that's absolutely not the case.
Good. Yeah. It's always good when you give some nuance to the sort of the general degen sentiment out there. Right. Yeah. So we've had a couple of play tests launched this week. We've had Shardbound, which you've done. We've had Metalcore, which I also think you did. Shrapnel. D-Lab Games Metabolt has had their first closed beta. Cometh has launched their Cosmic Battle into early access. In other news, Kydro has announced that they are launching on Ronin instead of Immutable, as they announced last year. And Blast Royale is also swapping Polygon to come to Immutable CK EVM. So lots and lots of chain migrations. We're not going through all of them, but start us off with talking about tokens, John, particularly the Pixel token, which is the sort of big subject of the week.
Yeah. So yes, as you say, the sort of the I mean, in general, because we're in this sort of bull market, I would sort of call it now, where just a lot of crypto tokens are going up. So although it's come down a little bit as ever, sort of what you say one day may change next day. At the start of the week, a lot of tokens hit sort of all-time highs. So the Beam token hit an all-time high. The Ronin token hit an all-time high. Prime hit an all-time high. So, but these, as we sort of touched on already, these tend to be fairly new tokens in the sense that they sort of came out in 2023. So we've started to see tokens that came out sort of as this bull market was emerging have done really well in that sort of run up, and some new ones that have launched, like the I don't know how you pronounce it, the XE token has done well. We got the Portal coin or Portal token coming out the 29th, so that's next week, which I guess we'll talk a bit more about then, so I won't go into that now. Bit of I would say, an interesting a symbolic token in terms of very, very crypto-y and very potentially undefined. But anyway, Pixels is definitely not that. So Pixels is the biggest blockchain game at the moment. On the back of the token coming out, it hit they tweeted out they hit 314,000 daily active users. So that's previously I think they've been quoted about 180,000. So this token coming out has really sort of the play to airdrop event they had has really boosted them, and then the token coming out has really boosted them again. So that's I guess a prime example of how tokens can really help a game, and that game's been out for 2 years. They're changing loads of stuff at the moment, but that's a solid game that people have been playing for a long time. A very sort of well defined team now running on the Ronin blockchain, which is sort of the hottest gaming blockchain at the moment. As I said, the ROM token's doing very well as well. So it'd be a great surprise, I think, if the Pixel token hadn't launched well. So it's actually the price of it has not changed actually very much since it went live. Partly, I think that's because it was based on they priced they based the price on the existing berry tokens. So they had this token called Berry that they got rid of, and they converted all the berry tokens to pixel tokens at a fixed rate. So that sort of fixed the price. So that was quite clever. So no one who had the berry token felt they got ripped off, but it meant that you don't. I think if I was running a blockchain game, which thankfully I'm not, the price going up too much is actually not a great thing for the developer, because it causes loads of internal structure in there, loads of problems in terms of their economy, and people just want it to go up, and it sort of becomes detached from what you want it to be, which is an exchange mechanism in the game and fixed to the sort of what's happening in the game. So I think Pixel played it very well, that the token price has actually been pretty solid. So it's currently market cap of about 400 million. Obviously, they've only released a small percentage of I think they have, I can't remember, 1 billion or 5 billion tokens in the fullness of time to be released. Only a small proportion of those are out at the moment, but it's basically come in at about 400 million, which is, there are not many blockchain game tokens with a market cap of more than that, and the ones that are, the biggest one is Immutable, like $4 billion, over $4 billion, and then there's sort of Ron and Beam, sort of billion, 700 million, those sort of things. So as a game token, it's actually come in and done pretty well. So yeah, that's what's been going on. Tokens, let's say, are down a little bit today. So I think Bitcoin's still above 50,000, but Ether's come down from 3,000, which it had broken through. These very symbolic sort of numbers. We shouldn't worry too much about them. But in general, I think the market is still very bullish. There's lots of speculation, which it's nice when you get that sort of change of emphasis, that change of sentiment from what we've had in most of 2023, but equally it can become a little bit dangerous because everyone just expects everything to go up, and then you get these very, very big increases, and then they come sort of crashing down the other side. So outside of crypto, we're seeing a few other similar things. So the Japanese stock market, which may sound a bit obscure, but Japanese stock market is hit an all-time high, and it previously did that 34 years ago. So it's not just crypto, but even the more sort of macro space, people thought interest rates were going to come down a lot. That would be good for crypto. Interest rates haven't come down. Inflation is still sort of a bit higher. It's generally around sort of 3% rather than 2% that they want. So there's still a bit of uncertainty, I think, in the general economic sort of situation, which does impact crypto. But then you have not weird things, but then you have stuff like the Nvidia company released their financials 2 days ago, and they were much better than everyone expected. And so Nvidia put $100 billion on its market cap in terms of a share. So there's quite a lot of weird stuff going on. If you're someone who tries to take a whole holistic view of the markets, there's lots of good news, or lots of positivity, or lots of confidence in certain things. But then there's these sort of, it's not just sort of blue sky and no clouds. There's these sort of weird clouds as well. So I think it's quite difficult for people to work out, how long this is going to last. Actually, Japan and the UK entered recessions over the last 6 months as well. So the US is the big market is doing super well. China's not doing very well at all at the moment. So yeah, it's very hard to pin these things down. So crypto is a very small part of this general economic thing, but clearly is very impacted by it. But I think, as we're going to talk about now, as more games come out, then you start to then hopefully, particularly the gaming side of blockchain, start to feel a little bit less speculative and a little bit more like, well, there's people playing these games. And I guess coming back to Pixels, you do see that there's at the moment 300,000 people playing these games, and they're using this token, within the in-game economy. Okay, sometimes they're just earning it as a reward, but equally they're using it to do things in the game, and that's the start of building a more, sort of balanced economy, I suppose, a more balanced way of pricing these tokens.
And there was quite a bit of talk during 2023, I remember, about how do you build utility? How can you create utility? But there, if you got a good game that people want to play and want to trade in, then you automatically have the utility there. Then you don't sort of have to design all these models for extra utility. And then it's nothing to say you can add, obviously, utility by but once there's a fundamental sort of interest around a good game, then that's kind of quite a lot won already there.
No, I think that's a valid point. I think I've come to the stage over the last sort of 7 years where I think generally when you get into the sector, you sort of see, it's all about utility. It's all about having these tokenomics and these sort of mechanics of how these tokens are used, and yes, that is important. I think, but I think we're still, for every blockchain game, a long way off the the tokens being valued on any utility they have in the game. Because one, the games aren't big enough; there's not enough people playing them. I think that stuff sort of kicks in when you have a couple of million people playing your game every day. That then you can start to see how the economy works. At the moment, I think it's sort of window dressing. The moment the value of all these tokens is I would say 95% speculative. Which is not to say that my view has always been most blockchain games won't work because it's super complicated to do, but the ones that do work will be just unbelievably valuable. So I would say 99% of blockchain game tokens are totally valued on speculation. But 1% that are valued on speculation will actually, at some point in the next 10 years, come through and be still will increase 100-fold, maybe some of them, because they're going to build out these $1 trillion economies, I think, in 10 years' time. But that's not most of them, I think. And I think it's a much longer process than anyone, certainly me, imagined.
Yeah, and you kept on playing Heroes of Mavia this week, haven't you? So how's that token doing, the Mavia token?
It's come down. So I think it peaked about 9. I think it's down to about 7. I mean, in general, I think they would, that's an absolute success for them. So they airdropped a lot of tokens to people. I think it's launched about $1 when it first tracked at $1. I mean, it didn't really have a price. And coming back to what we just discussed, that token has no utility at the moment because there's no blockchain in the game. So they've had 1.6 million downloads. That's the last figure they quoted a few days ago. They have about 300,000 daily active users on Apple and Google. The game, as I've sort of discussed, is not. If it wasn't a blockchain game, no one would talk about it. It's to some degree a decent sort of Clash of Clans sort of inspired game. It's got some very odd mechanics, some sort of how much resources you need to level stuff up, which I think are to do with the blockchain elements, which make it really not a very good experience, I find. But the blockchain stuff's not live, so I don't have any idea how quickly they're going to start bringing in blockchain stuff. They say they're going to announce what L2 blockchain their marketplace is going live on at the end of February, so that's only a week away. And then they're going to launch a marketplace for in-app for NFTs and stuff in the game. I'm not quite sure what those are going to be, but that will unlock a whole bunch of other ways of progressing in the game. At the moment, you're fairly stuck. It's a little bit odd. So we'll see. But they've done as much as they've done at the moment. That's I would say it's been a great success. But again, they have less players than Pixels at the moment, and they've got a game through the App Store. So that's it's very much the start of their process.
So what other games have you been playing? It's play tested, I suppose.
Yeah, so quite a lot of stuff coming out. I mean, I think that's the nice thing, and compared to 2021, where we had a lot of speculative tokens coming out and very little high quality games. Now we do have high quality games coming out, and so at the moment I'm just trying to think. Shrapnel is going through its second play test. I played the first one, haven't done in the second one yet, but got another couple of days to go. Axie Champions is a mobile game. It's not through App Stores yet. It's an APK, so I've started playing that. It's a match 3 sort of game, RPG. Meta Bolts, I've only just started playing. That's from a South Korean developer, and it is the most lunatic game I've played for a long, long time. That's very early though. We'll see. We'll see how that one plays out. I'll do some videos about that. It's just crazy. Very funny in some ways, very odd in others. And the sort of main one I've started playing yesterday was Shardbound. So Shardbound is this turn-based deck building game. It was originally a Web 2 game, a sort of failed Kickstarter that's been rebooted as a Web 3 game from Banjo Bazooka or Bazooka Banjo or Tango.
Bazooka Tango.
Yes, you're the expert on that. I just never get it right now. So they know what they're doing, and I played the first playtest and quite enjoyed it. The second playtest is much better. I'm not much better. I'm much worse. So I just get beaten all the time. But it's very, very sort of high. It's not a AAA game because it's just not that budget, but it's a very good quality game for that genre. And I'm quite inspired to sort of try and play it some more. I don't know how much time I've got to throw at it. There's no blockchain in there as ever, so I should point that out. But it's a very high quality PC game available. They're doing it through Steam. It's just locked. So I think 2,000 people are doing this playtest. But you start to get an idea of the different sort of types of I'm calling them tribes, or different sort of types of characters you have in there, and you have to understand minion characters you're putting down, and then you have the sort of cards you're playing to sort of boost them, and your different ways of winning. And I don't think anyone who plays these sort of games will go, "This is very innovative." I don't think it is, but I think it is a very well presented sort of game, and we haven't seen many of those in blockchain. So it's good to see that. Shrapnel again, a bit more bare bones. So they're doing these extraction events, but that game is really in a sort of. Maybe I'm being a little bit too mean, but it's very, in terms of like these maps you're playing in, a very alpha maps. They're not well sort of lit or textured or anything like that. They're not. They don't care about that. They just want people to move around and do the basic gameplay. But that game's a long way off. I think they've said 2025 is when they're sort of doing a launch. Metalcore, I haven't played this. They did a play test this week. I haven't played that one, I must confess. I've played it in the past, but not this time. Again, so these are big 3D shooter games. So there's a whole bunch of big games coming out, I guess.
We've also tried the metaverse kind of sandbox farming, ZTX.
Oh yes, you did, didn't you?
Had our children have a go at that due to half term. Tend to let them have a go at blockchain games. They've played my neighbour Alice and the sandbox in the past, and now they're asking to play this more. So that's a good sign. I see. Best game ever. So one of them said. Tend to do that after 2 minutes of choosing an avatar. But
yeah, it's very much into sort of the the crafting stuff. Because they play Minecraft, and that's kids just get that sort of. I plant these plants. It takes this time to sort of get these resources, and I use these resources to do these things. That's sort of very much. I guess the argument would be whether it's a game or more like a. It's more like a. I think what I saw was more like a metaverse where you're doing these materials, and then you have a house that you're sort of fitting out, aren't you? You're sort of building. You're decorating the house, which people like doing as well. So.
You've also been talking to let's get it right. Angry Dynomites Labs.
Yes.
Ollie Löffler.
Yeah, and you're wearing the hat, so you're wearing the.
I'm wearing the hat for that reason.
Yes, I spoke.
I wore it to remind myself.
Yes, no, I had a great chat with Ollie. Second time on the podcast. He's really. He's pretty young actually, but he's already sold his first. The first games company he and some of his university colleagues, I think, started in Germany. They sold to Ubisoft a couple of years ago. So he really knows about building games successfully, and they were idle mobile games. And he's got this game out called Craft World, which is an idle resource game. They've been sort of kicking that around for a couple of years. 18 months, I suppose. But they got like a new version of it out, which is it's an idle game. So idle games basically, it's not a game where you sort of do things. You don't like move characters around or fight, or you basically, it's a little factory building game where you you get these resources and you choose how to use those resources to build more complex resources. So you start off with earth, and then you make mud, and then you make clay, and then you end up making concrete. And there's basically the basic elements. So there's earth, fire, water. You get steam and concrete and copper, and so you're building up this big array of little factories that feed resources into each other. They have a token, like a gold token, that you can swap any of these resources into. So, and then you can buy any other resources. So, depending on what you need. And then you have these things called masterpieces, which are very big. At the moment, they're rockets. So they need, hundreds of thousands of different resources. So they might need, I don't know, let's say 10,000 steel, and maybe you can only make 5 steel. But as a group, as people playing the game, you sort of there's a leaderboard. So you give your resources away to build this masterpiece, and then you get sort of ranked on the leaderboard. So that's where they are at the moment, but very ambitious, very blockchain, which I like, sort of very fully on chain, which I like. So he's saying, it's a sort of quite a good example. At the moment, we're building these rockets in the game, but he said if SpaceX wanted to create NFT rockets, then instead of just doing a mint list or doing it on OpenSea, they could create a formula for what resources you needed to do in this game, and then people could be building them and then minting out an NFT using this sort of gamified experience. So that's pretty cool. And then because they're EVM compatible, they're currently on Polygon. I'm not quite sure what they're going to end up on. I don't think they know at the moment. But they are going to integrate other tokens. So they're talking to Cyberkongs, which is a pretty cool NFT collection. And Cyberkongs has a banana token that's been out for ages. I don't think you do very much with bananas at the moment. I think it's one of these tokens that just got released and, as we discussed, doesn't have much utility. But they're going to integrate banana into the game. So you're going to have, I don't know, quite some banana factory that makes, I don't know, banoffee pie or something. Who knows? Anyway, so this real token that's knocking around. They're going to integrate that, and then you can use the banana token to make these other things. And that will bring the Cyberkong people in who have banana tokens, and that will, increase the utility for banana tokens. And people who are playing the game already will sort of probably maybe they airdrop banana tokens to use, and all this will be making Cyberkong themed stuff. So it's very cool. And basically, his view of interoperability is not let's interop NFTs because that's really complicated. Let's just use tokens. There's all these thousands and thousands of tokens out there, most of which have no utility, as we've discussed. And if you're putting them in the system, the other cool thing about it is when these masterpieces are made, all those tokens that are sort of you're giving away are gifted. You're burning them, and they're all proper blockchain crypto. So one of the big problems with a lot of crypto is you're just making more of it all the time, and you don't have a deflationary. It's quite hard to get a deflationary policy in where you're actually destroying them. And obviously, people like that because if there's more scarcity, then the price presumably goes up. Well, we'll see. So it's a bit of a long way off. Well, it's the summer. He's looking to launch that, but he's a very it's very inspiring, I think, in what he's doing. He's not I don't think he's like a great inspiring talker or anything like that, but he's very visionary, I think, in how he's looking to build games. And he's very focused on blockchain. He said 2022 and 2023 weren't very good years for us, but he never thought he was never gonna leave the blockchain space. Obviously he could go and start a company making any sort of games. He's sold a company to Ubisoft, but he's very much focused. He's a tiny team, like 9 people, I think. So building out this thing, which I think is just very blockchain. I think it's very nice, and it's very, very accessible as well. So the moment they're doing it, you don't even need a wallet. They'll pay you the gas in the background. I'm not quite sure how much they can do that, when they actually go live with all these people, and you can't pay for everyone's gas all the time. But yeah, really sort of nice idea, I thought. So,
good on that positive note.
Yes,
we are going to run off. Say bye-bye, but we'll see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good week.
See ya. Bye.